This year was the first time I ever got on a virtual board game platform. I actually ended up getting on 3, but Board Game Arena is where the heavy action is because all I do there every day, 3 matches running at a time, is Faraway from Catch-Up Games. How many other games did it beat out? I'll never know. When I got my head inside this one, it was a category killer. I didn't want any other light multiplayers because I'd found my jam. To recap, in case you missed episode 92, Faraway is a minor masterpiece that balances interesting decision space with a delightful backstory about backpacking and meeting friendly locals in a faraway land. One of my favorite things is how the game's idea of a journey in this place, called Ululu, fuses with the surprise of exploration and the puzzle of visiting the right natives at the right time. Your job in the game is to become the most famous backpacker ever to visit Ululu by crossing 4 distinctive biomes and couch surfing with the land's many hosts. The game consists of 8 turns where you play 8 cards representing 8 stops on your trip, each one with a friendly, colorful local who lives in one of the 4 biomes of Ululu's shifting terrain. Here's the hitch. The locals who host you on your way out want to see you again on your way back, and if you've collected stories and samples of Ululu's sacred and beneficial plants, minerals, and critters, you score more points. And this is where the theme rests organically with the puzzle because you have to plan your trip carefully. After all the players have picked 8 stops through a drafting system, cards go face down and get rolled and scored in reverse order. If you visited a 2-headed person in a town on stop 7, that's going to be the second card you roll going backwards. If stuff they wanted to hear about isn't visible when you roll their card, no points. They'll still make you the same weird tea, but no points. My first few games of Faraway felt a bit like those pat your head and rub your stomach dexterity tricks that seem so simple but make your brain seize up. But once I acquired that skill, I got addicted because trying to optimize the best sequence of visits with the right scoring patterns of icons is constantly ticklish and even a little tense at the end, especially if your first few stops were high-scoring hosts who wanted piles of stuff like gold log thistles, and you forgot to balance what they wanted with the scoring requirements of every card you've played since you saw them. My buddy Dave from the Dude Take Your Turn blog invited me to play this with him this spring, and we've played almost a game a day since. And since this is the only thing I do on Board Game Arena, I found myself with plenty of time to stare holes in the cards and then start craving more action. I started joining tournaments and play in arena mode because now I just love the subtleties and depth of the sequencing and comboing visits. Plus, unless you're a natural mathematician, the endgame tally is fun too because I'm never exactly sure how well I did until I see the cards rolled at the end. Like any journey, there are some, oh, I forgot to bring back something, or seeing an accidental draw that brought in a few more points than I expected. Ululu's ecological theme and its inhabitants are soothing and stimulating, a pleasant green hum of atmosphere that always feels present in the game. When I wanted a break from middleweight war games this summer, there was no sense in even looking at anything else for a light diversion because Faraway is so well presented and its mysteries so satisfying to crack. This is the one. My favorite light multiplayer of 2025, not even close. Although there is a point where pure wonderment starts giving way to the dullness of familiarity and the mechanics of calculation. The sensuous meandering starts to turn into an optimization exercise, and I noticed a couple things. I was spending less time lingering and listening, more time trying to hit sightseeing and object collection quotas. I was getting a bit jaded and transactional about the whole thing, and I'm not alone. Ululu has changed. My last visit there, I saw my first boutique store run by a transplant, and everybody had started a damn Ululu podcast. I had to listen to a lot of them because it would have been rude not to, so for better or worse, here are my reviews of Ululu's top 8 podcasts. 1. That Udo That You Do, hosted by Dustine of the Desert. Now, listen, I have no shaman-level knowledge of the folk medicine of Ululu, but I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to carve pieces off an Udu stone and use them in a proprietary burger sauce recipe. My last stop was 24 plus hours in the desert, 6 of which I spent watching Dustine carve pieces off it, mash them up with okiko fat, and rant about how his clan's barbecue was the absolute best grilling skills of all the desert folk. His mic wasn't even on. I think the worst part was when the light went out of the stone and it stopped hovering and crashed to the floor. That was the most demoralizing thing I think I've ever seen. 2. Daily Mushroom Forest Thoughts. My host played me an episode, and the podcast started out with an ad for Red Robin because they're hosting it on Libsyn. I don't even know how that's possible, and I'm not good at hiding my reaction to stuff, but that was a long fucking 1 hour 37 minutes, I can tell you that. 3. I still don't know how to pronounce this podcast's name, and I'm not even going to try. I did a pit stop in a town where I saw my old two-headed pals, Klazat and Klazizen, I think. Or is it pal? I've never quite grasped their conception of singular versus plural. Anyhow, Klazats remembers details with eidetic clarity, and Klazizen has a gift for interpretation and context. They're like the play-by-play and color commentary team on an NFL broadcast, except they're talking about all the people who moved through their stacked pueblo of houses during the summer. At one point, I appeared in one of the recollections, and they reminded me about why I first came here. The live episode I saw them record was 8 hours long. Absolutely hypnotic. 5 stars. 4. Breath of the Okiko. I think the general problem with becoming a solo version of a media network is that your broadcast time and release schedule far outstrip your ability to meaningfully populate it. Turn on your local news during a flood or fire, they will have a couple poor schmucks at major intersections bouncing back and forth between graphics and the studio team for hours with no new information. The urgency is the information. As you can see, there are some emergency vehicles moving around in Macamee. That's what Breath of the Okiko tries to do, except it's about a self-absorbed former tourist who settled here, and now they're trying to one-up everybody else for authenticity and turning every damn thing they see into some tarted-up tale of transformation. Even back home, I get very nervous about people who advertise how centered and virtuous and empathetic they are right up front. People who do this are usually hopelessly lost, or they're hoping you are, so you'll buy their 3-tier Ululu self-actualization coaching package. Fuck that. 5. The Stave and the Garland. From the banks of a pristine river, this host talks over the ambient sound of moving water on the banks near where they practice martial arts. I tried to sit in for a session, and I have to say, I think I cracked a rib, but it still felt somehow playful. There's one episode, and so far it's 136 hours, 28 minutes, and climbing. They've definitely got the ASMR listener segment dialed in. 6. The Shifting Lands. Yeah, I'd never considered double-decker teasers with the intro music. The first cold open teaser made me feel a bit pandered to, but if you're podcasting, it's a very hard tactic to resist. A missing donation box. A quiet town torn apart. Find out what happens when you don't stay out of Riverdale. But what I liked here is how the host flips the setup right into the first tale, which mostly centers on Ululu's forest taxonomy, which I never get tired of hearing about. It's pretty slick. 7. Journeyed. Another dickhead for whom the most fascinating thing about Ululu is them. The intro was so laden with tautological statements, I actually whimpered a bit around the 248 mark, which got me a nasty stare. The show description has typos in it. Horse shit like this is one of the reasons nobody believes anything anymore. 8. Crap Sean's House of Bars. You know that look when you're talking with somebody at a party who works at a dab store and hangs out with dab people who all live the dab life, but it's still a fairly cool conversation until you realize they're about to rap? It doesn't matter whether you're in Colorado or Ululu, a few seconds of body language and the way they look into your eyes is universal, and you think, oh God, please don't rap. And then they rap, and you put your hands in your pockets and stare at your shoes and bob your head once in a while because they're looking at you the whole time and gesticulating in your face. All I'm saying is please don't rap, especially to a guest who's trapped in your yurt for the night. You don't have any bars and it's not cool. Please don't rap. Unless, of course, you're really good at it, like Open Mike Eagle. Here comes track of the week.